At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu. At Arizona State University, we've made online education better, smarter, and more personalized so you can go further in your aspiring field.
I decided to pursue medicine once I realized that ASU did have the online program for biological sciences. You're still required to learn the same curriculum. You're still being tested on the same content that anyone would be tested on in person. The comprehensiveness of the program prepared me so well for medical school.
Explore over 350 plus programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Welcome into Two Guys, One Pod, Fantasy Football Podcast. I am Chev90, aka Justin Curry, aka Chevdor Sanders, aka your favorite podcaster's favorite podcaster, the hostess with the mostest. And I'm here today with a very special guest, the co-founder and co-host of the Dynasty Gambit here on FSAN and the Dynasty Gambit Discord. Go check that out at Dynasty Gambit. So I'm here today with a not only very close friend and colleague of mine in the industry, but a very accomplished scholar and gentleman. I'm here with Doctor of Physical Therapy, Ben McCown. How are you doing today, brother?
Well, Chev, I have to say that was a great way of being introduced. Especially you got my title absolutely correct on being a doctor of physical therapy. It's great to be here, man. And, I was looking forward to this show. Obviously I've had you on a few times and you've had some of our other close friends in the industry on, and looking forward to be on 2G1P.
Yeah, man. I'm really excited to do this because it involves an area that not only are you the client, some consider you the player president of physical therapy. And so bounce back players, guys who were balling out that we're excited about. I mean, like I just talk about football. Like you talk about, you actually rehab people and injuries and stuff. So we're going to get into that today. I mean, I'm really excited about some of the guys that we've discussed. We share a passion. I don't have anybody on this list that I disagree with. And I looked through the show sheet and saw what you have on there. And I was like, oh yeah. We're going to get into the weeds of it today. So we want to discuss guys that were, that are some prime fantasy targets and assets. Some guys that we're really looking at to be pivotal parts of our, fantasy season. Some are more expensive. Some are a little bit less expensive. Some have, whether or not they're like franchise cornerstone question marks, some are in contract years, but all of that just leads us down the path of like, these dudes are hurt. They're coming back. We've got a guy with a big brain that's going to give us some big answers about what's going to happen in 2025 with these guys. So, Ben, tell us a little bit about your background as a doctor of physical therapy before we get into this.
Yeah, so I've been working as a licensed physical therapist in the state of Michigan for the last almost 7 years, and graduated from both Oakland University for undergrad and grad school. Go Grizzlies. If you're not familiar where the school is, we're in Rochester, Michigan. And we actually probably are best known for the March Madness tournament where we beat Kentucky a couple years ago, and almost had a shot at being NC State in the round of 32. But smaller school, but great PT program out there, and have stayed in the area in Michigan. My wife and I live out just on the outskirts of Ann Arbor with our 2 children. And man, the one thing I do is I just love to talk ball, and I also love to use my career, my passion in physical therapy, and apply that to fantasy football, right? When we're talking about an edge with other league mates or other friends that we have, it's knowing when a a player could be at a great value because of an injury, right? Like there are guys that we're going to talk about tonight that had they not have this like stank of injury on their name, these would be like, and one guy that I'm going to talk about is probably a top 5 wide receiver.
Yeah.
And including, a guy that you're going to talk about as wide receiver. Like I can't keep gassing this guy up to the moon, but this is the edge that you look for in your dynasty leagues, that you're trying to buy guys who are down on value right now, and essentially have them gain value on your team as the season goes on. And I do think that all of these guys, when I looked at your list too, I had the same feeling. I was like, I see where Chev's going on this. I see what he sees in these players and what seasons they could have coming from them in 2025.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is like, we're not talking about, end of the roster guys. We're talking about dudes that have given you monster weeks or monster seasons or had stretches that lead you to believe that if they could sustain that. Hey, if we can get, we can get the right offensive coordinator, or we can get, an upgraded offensive line. Like if we can get any of those things working in our favor, then, we're really cooking here. But then the hurdle that we have to get over is the injury. And so that's the first hurdle that we're going to talk about today. And I'll lead us off with my primary player, the guy that I've steamed up quite a bit. We talk about him all the time in the group chat. We've had some passionate discussions about his fantasy outlook going into 2025. But my guy's Rashee Rice. So, he was on the verge of a breakout. He's 21 points a game, in the 3 games. If you want to say the 4th game counts, then he was at 16 points a game. He was 17 points a game in the back half, weeks 11 through 17 in his rookie year, where Travis Kelce only averaged 11.2 points per game. And then everything pointed to him being the replacement for Travis Kelce. And so I'm painting this rosy picture in my head of how we've just been able to steal Patrick Mahomes' number 1 weapon, the easy button now in the passing game. And then Patrick Mahomes goes and just torpedoes Rashee Rice's knee into oblivion. And when he does that, what happens? What happened to Rashee Rice at that point was he required posterolateral corner surgery. It's an area that's crucial for knee stability, and injuries can lead to pain, instability, and difficulty with activities. Activities being an American football player and having to cut and make dynamic moves when you lead the NFL in yards after the catch per reception. Oh, I hate Mahomes so much for this. So
yeah.
So he had surgery. He's already full participant in OTAs, and now they said he'll be full go for training camp. So give us the cause for concern here for Rashee Rice, or should we just be letting this, washing this away with the time?
Yeah. I think, let me just start off by saying, Chev, that I'll make a short soliloquy about it. It's just when that injury happened, and people were posting it all online, just the replays of it, and they had to remove it from some parts because of how gruesome it looked, and how unnecessary the move from Patrick Mahomes was that you don't need to involve yourself any more than you just did. Right. And basically just took out his star receiver in one play. And then on top of that, I was, online on Twitter, and there were people commenting that he deserved this because of what he did legally and all this.
Yeah.
And I was like, first of all, as a PT, that is extremely awful to wish somebody an injury like that. This is terrible. Right.
Yeah.
But anyway, so with Rice's injury, everybody gets it confused because people look at it and just like you said, it's that posterolateral complex in the knee on that right side. And what he ended up actually tearing was not his ACL. And everybody kept saying that online. And I was going out there correcting people. I was like, the mechanism of injury does not make sense for an ACL tear. And lo and behold, it's an LCL tear. And the thing with the LCL part of that lateral part of the knee is that it is not as extensive of rehab after the surgery, as well as the difficulty in that return to play as what an ACL reconstruction surgery is. And so I think people are overblowing like this, like, oh, he's not going to be ready until 2026. Like 2025 is going to be a down year. And I just straight up don't agree. Basically we've gotten all the signs from Andy Reid and it is coach speak at that point, but he's saying he's going to be ready by training camp. And I 100% believe that based on the timelines of his injury. He was injured in week 5. So that's back at the end of last September that he played against the Chargers. Didn't even get a target. I don't think. I actually just looked at it and the guy had blank across the stats board, and I just
he played 6% of the snaps.
Yeah, and
at Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university online. That's a degree better. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu.
So you look at it now, September, now it's June. So you've gotten basically 9 months and training camp hasn't even started yet. He's going to be playing week 1. And I feel pretty solid about him being able to do something this season, pretty significant. And we've talked about it in our group chat a lot, that the style of game that he plays is perfectly matched with Xavier Worthy. And you have a Travis Kelce who was on the way out, and then ultimately Rashee Rice takes over that role, and then you have Worthy as the burner, and you also added Jalen Royals. I'm excited about this Kansas City offense.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. I mean, they've been kind of hinting at wanting to get back to more of that Legion of Zoom, big plays, creating explosives as opposed to dinking and dunking their way down the field. And just, obviously their defense is good enough for them to be able to do that. And they tend to, they'll feed Isaiah Pacheco, but they're never going to be one of the more run heavy or, pass rate over expectation, like one of the bottom feeders in that. They're going to be up near the top. So I believed in the talent that Rashee Rice was. Then I believed in the breakout. And now I believe you've given me confidence to believe in Rashee Rice being back to what I believe was a firm wide receiver 1 on his way to that type of season before he got hurt. And I think we can get that again in 2025. Now, I do have to ask, like, at his current price point for redraft, well, early on, this is best ball. We're talking underdog here. So underdog, he's going at the 2-3 turn. Wide receiver 13. Are you in or out on his price right now?
At wide receiver 13, that's slightly high, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't play a lot of best ball, admittedly. Most of my like wheelhouse is redraft and dynasty, and I would say redraft. I have a pretty good handle on him being like, I just saw him go at the 312 in a startup I'm doing right now, but roughly going in that early 4th.
Right.
And I think that's
flip the question then. You're firmly in on Rashee Rice at his current ADP, like 4.2.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, because like who else is going in that range? It's essentially like Ladd and JSN are already off the board. So you're considering T. Higgins, Rashee Rice, Rome Odunze, and in that kind of tier. And it's like I would take Rashee over all of those guys because I think what we saw from last season is like this guy was on pace to do stuff that we would probably put him into the BTJ range of where he's being drafted right now.
For the record, that pace was 162 targets.
I think that's 13 more targets than Drake London.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're talking about, 160 target guy that was creating, that had an unreal catch rate. I mean, I think he was at 88%. He was 82% that back half of his rookie year. So he was at 88% catch rate on 160 targets. Obviously, that's going to come down some potentially, but maybe not. I mean, it is Mahomes, and it is one of the most effective play callers in the history of the game. But we'll get to find out this year. So that's where we land on Rashee Rice. We're in on his dynasty price. I'm in depending on his underdog price. I think so. What that range is right there, Ben, is
I was gonna say who's going around there?
Like Josh Jacobs.
Oh, yeah, give me Rashee Rice.
Yeah. I see, and that's where I struggle because I'm like, man, it's going to be really hard for me to pass on Josh Jacobs this year. So I'd probably be splitting those, but I could definitely, if I went hammer running back with my first round pick, my second round pick, I'm going to eyeball Rashee Rice real good because that's a wide receiver. That's a wide receiver 2 price, disguising a wide receiver 1, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So, but hey, let's talk about your player that you selected for this episode.
Yeah, I mean, since we're already kind of starting off on the high end, I'll take it to a guy who I've been just excited about for the last couple of years, and I think this year he's going to bounce back for sure, and that's Puka Nacua. So Chev, I did not know this fact, but Puka Nacua actually started his college career at the University of Washington.
Yes.
And after 2 seasons, then transferred to BYU, but actually played with Rome Odunze before Michael Penix came to Washington.
Yes.
And yeah, so to go back to Puka Nacua's, like, I like to take this back in a history of injuries because it really gives you a full picture of if we think that person's injury prone, that player is injury prone or not. And when you look back to the history, Puka had a pedal fracture, a foot fracture in 2019 in his freshman season at University of Washington. He would then go on to miss some games and basically transferred to BYU. And from there had an ankle sprain early on in his senior year, in his final season at BYU, and missed 2 games then. And then he moves down to the NFL and gets drafted by the Rams in the 5th round. And basically, at that point, actually, this was even still in his final season at BYU, but pulled hamstring, concussion in his Senior Bowl practice. And then he gets drafted. But the only injuries he really dealt with in his rookie season were a thoracic or a rib pull, or kind of a strain in his thoracic region, and then an AC joint sprain early in the season that he basically played throughout the season. Still put up record-breaking numbers, still holds the record for most receiving yards by a rookie receiver, and the rest is history. But then he starts to deal with a knee injury that's in training camp prior to the 2024 season, and it just continues to bug him. And then we see in week 1, he goes down against the Lions the opening week of 2024 last season. And he misses, I believe, roughly 9 games and comes back and basically continues to kill it. And the stat was crazy to me. When we look at these kind of things, we want to look at the points per game, right? Right. He was second in points per game behind Jamar Chase with 18.8 points per game. And he also led all wide receivers with 3.61 yards per route run. He was balling when he was actually on the field. And the thing is, none of the injuries ever really lead me to think that it's a recurrent issue.
Right.
As soon as you do get something like a PCL sprain, I mean, yes, you are at a higher risk, but these are professional athletes, and these are also professional medical teams working for these NFL teams. They're looking for that. They are watching, and they are making sure that their players are staying to the best of their shape. And I think Puka is also a hungry guy who wants to stay on the field. So, for me, I think Puka is still going to me at a discount, middle of the second to late second at worst in dynasty startups. And I think he has the talent to be the wide receiver 1 at any point if Matthew Stafford allows it.
Well, I mean, that's the thing is Stafford's a quarterback kingmaker. So, we can, and the Rams have one of the most consolidated passing, like target shares in the entire NFL. And over Sean McVay's tenure, that wide receiver room has been like top 6 or I think top 8 every single year Sean McVay has been with the Rams. So it's a high yield passing attack. And the alpha in that passing attack usually eats in a just ridiculous. I mean, Puka. So I'm sorry, I'm fumbling over my words because of the fact that we don't talk about Puka, I feel like, in the light that he should be viewed from hey, what type of asset do you have in Puka Nacua? And it's a number one wide receiver in an offense that uses him properly and hyper targets him. What is that?
What we want Rashee Rice to be, right?
Yes. This is the figured out version of Rashee Rice. Like, we're hoping that he turns into that. So that, to me, just I absolutely love that you hit on the point that, like, none of these injuries are recurring or something that you would consider to be long-term questions. So it just encourages me to buy more Puka Nacua. I did an article and a video about my dynasty wide receiver assets, and I think he was my second wide receiver behind Malik Neighbors. So yeah, I'm with you. Puka could be, I mean, he literally could be wide receiver one, the wide receiver one, not a wide receiver one, for those of you who might be questioning that.
Yeah, I mean, he has the quarterback that can elevate him, right? We know that Matthew, like you said, Matthew Stafford makes those wide receiver ones, and we've seen it over his history. And I don't think Davante Adams, there's an ecosystem where him and Davante Adams have no problem supporting each other and both being wide receiver ones.
Yes, that's the more pressing point, is that Puka is a value because he has the wide receiver one overall upside, and Davante Adams is a value because he's old and he's probably going to score double-digit touchdowns. So I would bet that if he plays 15 games, that he's going to score more than 10 touchdowns. Actually, that's a good point. I need to go check to see what his Vegas line is at for touchdowns, because I'm pretty sure I would take the over. But let's move on to my second player here. We're each going to give three players. So my player is Ken Walker. Ken Walker the third. Kenny Three Sticks. Here's the thing. He's one of the most dynamic runners. And then last year we got our prayers answered with him being able to catch passes. Somehow, miraculously, he's anti-Kadarius Toney, and he can just catch passes like nobody's business. And so he got off to a hot start in 2024, and then just was hampered by a litany of injuries that robbed us of his explosive abilities and availability. What looked like it was going to be his first, top 12 RB season with the types of performances he's putting up. He was 16.5 points per game. So he suffered nagging injuries and putrid offensive line play in 2024, but he remains one of the most unique talents at the position today. And those injuries, early in September, sports hernia, abdomen muscle, core muscle injury. Then in December of 2024, calf strain / ankle injury. And then December 22nd, he's placed on IR for the rest of the season due to a pedal ankle sprain. So I want to know what your thoughts are on Ken Walker, and what's kind of your outlook for his ability, his prognosis on staying healthy.
Chev, I'm actually scrolling because I am going to be going to a channel on our Discord that I really like. It started maybe a couple months ago when somebody had made a comment about how, like, it would be nice to, see kind of what we're talking about tonight, where I'm kind of talking about these injuries and how prevalent they are with a certain player. And so I started a thread or a channel kind of with different threads about injury mythbusters. And one of the people asked about Kenneth Walker. And I'm not seeing exactly his profile that I had posted on, which if you want to check those out, definitely reach out to me about joining the Discord. We can get you in there. But unfortunately, the opposite of what we just talked about with Puka, Kenneth Walker has had recurrent injuries, and he has injured the same body part. I want to say obliques multiple times, groin multiple times, ankle multiple times, and so those are concerning injuries when it comes to the recurrence of them happening again. And you talk about muscle strains. Muscle strains, they creep around, they come back. They're the most annoying injuries that I deal with in my clinic when I deal with athletes, and when I work with athletes and deal with those injuries with them. Ankle sprains as well. It's another, as soon as you roll your ankle and you sprain that ligament, it is never as strong as it was before you sprained it. And each time you do it, it just continues to become less stable, and you have to work on that muscular stability. So for me, as much as I do love the upside for Ken Walker, I think if he stays on the field, he is an RB1, and not the RB1, but an RB1. And I just get too afraid with his injury history. And while I'm not somebody that plays into that, usually it's the injuries that he has that scare me. And so unfortunately, I'm out on Ken Walker in regards to, I'm usually not taking him where he's going.
Now, and that where he is going is on Underdog. He's pick 41, RB 17. So he's going off the board in best ball at RB 17. Let me tell you exactly where he's going in Dynasty ADP. So 612. So he's right around. I
feel like Chase
right
Brown
there
goes.
with Jordan Addison. Chase Brown's like 4th round. So we're way out of the Chase Brown sweepstakes. Olave.
Been sleeping on Chase Brown too long.
What'd you say?
I said I've been sleeping on Chase Brown too long.
Oh, yeah. It's back. We're back. We're all the way back. I got a bunch of shares of Chase Brown's rookie year that I just never sold, and I just profit. It's great. But so right there with Chris Olave, Jordan Addison, sandwiched between those two guys. Are you taking both of those guys in 2025 over Ken Walker?
I think I was actually I think it was the Hunters startup, the Debbie startup that we did with Josh and Dustin. But I ended up having to take him because the situation that you're talking about basically happened where these exact players were falling right there. And I needed a running back. Chris Olave just has the stink for me. And I know how you feel about Olave. And Addison's a stable wide receiver too, in regards to, but Ken Walker just offers the upside of being an RB1. So I think I probably have to take Ken Walker there.
Okay. All right. So it is just a little, you want to make safer bets at the position in terms of availability based on what you've seen from Ken Walker and the types of injuries that he continues to sustain. That is where you exit stage left on him offering, him potentially hitting his ceiling outcomes because of the recurrence of the types of injuries that he has. Correct?
Correct. I think you have to save yourself later in the draft and take the cuff, take Zach Charbonnet.
Yeah. And this, so I can definitely see that perspective. I'm not ready to throw caution quite to the wind. If I go with a hero RB build in a startup where I just go stud RB, and then I'm in the wide receiver, I'm kind of in the wide receiver dead zone where Rashee Rice is probably going to be the first receiver I pick, then I might take a stab at Kenneth Walker. The injuries do scare me, and that's why I wanted to talk about it, because I wanted you to talk me off the ledge, but it seems that all of my fears are validated now, which is great.
Yeah, I think, because what was it? I saw him. Yeah, he was injured again, or he was hobbling on something during.
He's been. It said that the report this offseason said that he was battling an ankle injury during the off season.
That's the part I can't get behind. And it's like everybody posts the pictures of him like freaking bulking up. And I'm like, I don't care. I see his arms, but where's the strength in his ankles?
Yeah. Like, why are we not doing more? Why are we not just doing more unilateral
raises, man.
balance training? Like, what do you like? If there is an answer to be had, and it's not just like you just have terrible tendons in this left foot of yours, and they're just not going to be stable no matter what you do. I would be exhausting all angles that are available to my disposal to figure out how I can get this ankle thing to go away.
Yeah, I mean, what was it? The reports like a year or two ago when we talk about like Christian Watson and his hamstrings. It's like he was going to the University of Michigan and University of Wisconsin to have their rehab doctors and rehab specialists, including physical therapists and other rehab therapists as well. My credit goes out to you guys, but like at some point, it's just, have you done too much to yourself? And Ken Walker is kind of bordering that line. And I'm not somebody who likes the term injury prone, because I didn't think that Christian McCaffrey had an injury problem until last year when it was the Achilles issue, which we could talk about CMC tonight. He didn't make our list, but I worry about that for Ken Walker. Is this just going to be a continual thing throughout the rest of your career and you have to retire because of your medical issues?
That's a really dark outlook. I'm hoping that
we saw it Todd Gurley.
No, I mean, that's the one. He's like the Derrick Rose of the NFL, because it's like, there's so much. This is a bona fide. This is one of the best running backs we've ever seen. One of the most efficient touchdown scoring running backs that we have ever seen. And for his career to fall off a cliff as abruptly as it did, that always sticks out in your head, especially when you see a guy as talented as Christian McCaffrey, which we can talk about him right now. I mean, he had the PCL injury after dealing with dual Achilles tendonitis. He went and saw a man about some platelet injections in Germany and came back all better. What do you think about his ability to stay healthy going into 2025?
The whole platelet thing, it's like it has a lot of people trying to experiment towards getting it to see if it makes a difference, but the jury's out as far as the evidence goes to determine if that really makes a difference, whether it's PRP or which most likely he was receiving. At the end of the day, good old-fashioned rehab, adding in some of those other, I mean, I think it doesn't hurt to add those things in, but I do worry with Christian McCaffrey's age and the recent history stuff, the injury history stuff. He's a great shot to take as far as a league winner. If he's your running back too, where is he going in the sleeper drafts? Like roughly in the 6th or 7th round. I mean,
in startups, I mean, he's like 5 something, but 5 something is crazy for what he actually could give you.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's like where he would be vaulting himself ahead of these other running backs ahead of him if he has a comeback year. And what was it? I think you and we talked about it in the group chat about how he in 2019 had some of the craziest stats and basically was almost the next thing to LaDainian Tomlinson's record-breaking season in fantasy. And we were just asking, like, who else could do it in this league? Christian McCaffrey can when he's fully healthy.
Right. Like that, I just looked at the ADP. So 6'1" is where you can get him right now. And that, I think those fears that, those concerns that you brought up, they're definitely beyond valid. I mean, when you start seeing lower body injuries for any player, but particularly one with the docket of missed time that Christian McCaffrey has, it never gives you any sort of confidence until you've seen him do it for a sustained period of time. Like, you're not going to feel good in week 1. You're not going to feel good in week 2. It's going to have to get to about week 4 or 5. And likely he's giving you 4 RB1 weeks and 1 RB16 week, and you're going to feel great about it again. But you'll have to see it happen. There's nothing. Now, let me ask you this. Does the fact that he was able to practice fully, never missed a single activity, OTA or minicamp, does that give you any sort of confidence in his ability to sustain that going into 2025 regular season?
Yeah, I mean, he's doing the thing that Ken Walker couldn't do, which is not sustain an injury during this period of time. And I'm like, in that instance, I'd rather take Christian McCaffrey over Ken Walker.
That's diabolical.
Just do the one thing, man. Just don't hurt yourself.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Well, all right. So that'll take the place of my last guy. But let's talk about your. Well, no. Well, yeah, because I mean, I did Ken Walker and I did Rashee Rice.
Yeah,
I've done 3 now.
I get it. Oh, well, yeah. I mean, we'll move back to my guy, but I want to still talk about your other guy.
Okay. All right. If we get to it, we get to it. But go ahead. Let's talk about your guy here.
Yeah. So, man, when I was looking at this and just looking at some of the opportunities that I could talk about a player to have a bounce back season, I think Trevor Lawrence would be my very polarizing take, as far as you have so many people on both sides of the aisle. And I think there's a lot of people ready to jump ship. And I think there's the people that are holding on. And what I want to say is, I think there's an opportunity for you to hold on and just say, let's give it one more season. The Jaguars are trying to do something. They're trying to build around him with what Liam Cohen and the front office is doing, bringing in Travis Hunter. The only thing there I didn't really see much of was building an offensive line. But looking back at Trevor Lawrence's history, the guy was just an Iron Man. He had pushed through so much in his time in high school and in college, never missed a game. And then his first 2 seasons never missed a game. And it was finally until 2023 when, I believe that was, the AC joint injury. His AC joints do not love him. It's the same side. It's his non-throwing arm. Just will decide once a year now to just go out on him. And no, I hope that's not the case. I do hope that, he ended up having surgery back this last December for an AC joint separation. Let me talk a little bit about how bad it was. There is a piece of things when you separate your AC joint that your clavicle actually raises up above that acromion, or that end of the shoulder. And your clavicle is basically now creating what's called a step deformity. So it literally looks like stepping downstairs. And at that point, you for sure have to have surgery in severe cases. And the recovery is pretty straightforward. Actually, local for me, Matt Stafford, had dealt with the surgery and came back and would go on to have, a very great career and winning a Super Bowl with the Rams and still putting up a lot of great seasons with the Lions. So it is possible. And we're talking about another first overall quarterback. We can have another conversation about first overall picks that end up getting failed within their first couple of seasons, right? But if we're just sticking to the injuries, I don't see as much of an issue with Trevor Lawrence to think that I'm out on him with injury, right? I think at this point, with him going forward this season, what I can tell you with pretty good certainty is that if he struggles this year, it's not because of the injury. It's just because we've lost out on Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm at. I do hope he can get back to his kind of Iron Man days that he had in high school and college, because I think that he has the talent to be it. This wasn't just a mirage that we saw with him being, what people were considering a generational talent. And he's the one guy that when you say the word generational talent, it just makes you want to throw up when you think of Trevor Lawrence, because it's like he was failed this first year with Urban Meyer.
Yeah.
Then he moves on to Doug Peterson, and better coach, but it just still felt like there wasn't enough coaching of him to be able to be a top quarterback one in the league. So I'm really hoping a lot for Trevor Lawrence this season, especially since my Travis Hunter and my Brian Thomas Jr. shares count on it. But we will see.
I think that's a great point. I think that, how do I say this? I think we miscast Trevor Lawrence. We miscast Trevor Lawrence as a generational talent and a can't miss prospect. And I think the definition with him has to change, because it's, if you changed it from generational talent to like child prodigy, like we knew Trevor Lawrence had been the number one quarterback in
Quinn
high
Ewers
school.
was a child prodigy.
Yeah. Like if you change it to that, then it changes your expectations. But if you're comparing him to guys, just at his own school, if you compare him to Deshaun Watson as a collegiate, like putting those films next to each other, it's totally different. You compare him to Andrew Luck, and it's like you're watching a different species of quarterback. So if you reshift the expectations just to like, hey, this is a child prodigy made good, and we can't put the same expectations on him that we do for like an Andrew Luck or a Cam Newton or some of these other numbers, Matthew Stafford. We can't put those expectations on him because he's just he's trying to figure it out, and we've never had a chance. We've never given him a fair chance to figure it out.
Yeah,
So,
I think he's going I'm not looking at any ADP right now, Chev, but I've been seeing him go in the 5th round, roughly around Brock Purdy, JJ McCarthy, some of those other names. And, I think he makes a good QB2 on teams, on fantasy, on dynasty teams. I would definitely not feel comfortable with him as my QB1, but there is room for him to step up and get to that point where he's a top 12 quarterback if it ends up with the best cards this season.
I mean, we do have like a quarterback 8 finish, I believe. And, he offered some rushing upside. So there's a path. So let me just close the loop on Trevor Lawrence by asking you. So you mentioned the ADP right now, 5-1 in the ADP for the FF Dynasty. If we're looking at 5-1, you've got the choice between Trevor Lawrence or Jared Goff going 5-5. Which one would you choose?
I probably still have to go Goff, and I'm trying to leave out my Lions, my Honolulu Blue blinders.
Well, okay, we could do. Do another.
Oh no, and yeah, give me another, I guess.
Okay, Trevor Lawrence or Michael Penix 507.
Michael Penix.
Okay, and again, Dak Prescott is a full round later at 602.
I would actually take Trevor Lawrence in that situation.
Would you really?
I think I would.
Interesting. Okay. Well, that's we'll talk offline about that. Maybe I need somebody to put me in check about my expectations for Dak Prescott. You might be the person to do it. But let's move on. Let's talk about your next player here. Like I said, I took Christian McCaffrey. We discussed him. So now we're going to talk about another one of Ben's players that we're going to get the outlook for moving forward. Take the floor, Ben.
Yeah. So this one, and you had said at the top of the show that like these are guys that have been dominant, right, at certain points of their career, and then they just have been hit by the injury bug. This guy that I'm going to bring up is actually hasn't had the chance to prove it at the NFL level. And Dynasty is all about trying to see the path for certain players and seeing if you can get them to raise in value on your team and give you something. And most likely this guy is on a lot of people's benches or their IRs. I don't know his designation in sleeper right now, but it should be on IR, to be honest, based off of what injury he had. And that's Jonathan Brooks. Like this was a guy who was drafted as the RB1 of 2024 out of Texas, ahead of Trey Benson, ahead of Tyrone Tracy, Bucky Irving. And he was dominant in his time when he was on the field at Texas, and then gets his whole senior year derailed when he gets hurt towards the end of the season, his senior season. And at that point can't help Texas out in their strife for college football playoff. But then he gets, he rehabs. He does his time, and he basically is good by December of 2024, to the point where he steps back out on the field and within the matter of a few games re-tears the same ACL. I can tell you as a professional, that is not easy to do. And it's heartbreaking for me to see a guy who looks like just a phenomenal athlete, one, and also just a good person. He seems like a good person, right? Like Jonathan Brooks would have been an awesome running back for the Panthers to be able to have as their franchise guy as it was looking, and then just re-tears it and resets the clock again to where now they've basically shut him down for the 2025 season because they want to give him the time, which is the right thing to do. But like now you have to navigate like what he ends up being able to come back to with, Chuba, he signed like 3 or 4 year extension with Carolina. So, he's probably going to be in the room with they just, drafted Trevor Etienne. We're not exactly sure what's going on with that. But I think Jonathan Brooks has the talent to, whether he ends up doing something his final season on his rookie contract or ends up signing with another team afterwards and maybe rises through the depth chart that way. I'm not worried about the ACL reconstruction surgeries in terms of if he does his rehab correctly and he gives himself the time that he needs, he should be able to come back and hopefully recoup something within his NFL career.
That's very reassuring to hear, especially considering that most people are just writing him off as injury prone. It's good to know that you're still taking, the measured approach and saying, hey, my professional opinion says, hey, this was a lightning strikes twice thing. It would be, God coming down himself and hitting you with the lightning for it to happen a third time. So I think
he's still 21.
Yeah. I mean,
he's got the age on his side for sure too. And he has a lot of tread on the tires.
Yeah. So 1607 right now in a startup. And
guys going in that range. Just curious.
Oh, I'll go back to it. Not a problem. So Blake Corum goes one pick ahead.
Give me
Dallas.
Jonathan Brooks. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. What were you saying?
Oh, I was just saying, go ahead and give me Jonathan Brooks on that.
Yeah,
because I see a path.
Right.
More so than Corum.
And that's the interesting thing, because you're making a bet on a player that's injured, but again, you providing us that context of, hey, this is a very rare thing to do, and you're not going to have to do anything different to recover from this than you would if you were doing, if it were the first, like nothing has to change. Like we're not looking at any actual deficiency. It's just rare thing happened. Now you can recover from it normally, and hopefully it'd be an outlier of outlier outcomes for it to happen again. But yeah,
when I say that I just have to add this piece to it too, Chev, is that the reason why it's rare is because it's more likely that you actually tear what we consider your contralateral side or the opposite side,
Right.
because the rehab has strengthened so much of the knee that of that injured side that people, they lose sight of that when they're doing rehab correct. If they were doing rehab correctly and not, really balancing that out with the contralateral leg. And so it's very, very unlikely that you tear the same ACL. And it was just like you said, almost seems like an act of God.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very reassuring to hear. I mean, it's just, he's an afterthought, absolutely free. Probably find him on some of your waiver wires of, more shallow bench leagues or shallow roster leagues in Dynasty. I mean, obviously you're not going to do anything with him in redraft because he's out for the season in 2025. But
yeah,
I just, that's a great point to kind of help close us out, is that you shouldn't give up on this guy just because he's not available to you right now. And I'm pretty sure there'll never be, and you would agree with this, there'll never be a cheaper point to try to acquire Jonathan Brooks than there is right now.
What, at most you're spending a third?
Yeah.
You can try and get him for like a 2028 third.
A 2028 third is crazy.
I'm not looking at Dynasty Daddy or anything, but I'd be curious if he's gone for like 2/4 or a third or anything like that.
Oh, I saw him get traded for like a 2026 fourth.
Ooh, yeah, give me Jonathan Brooks. Like that's free money.
Rando fourth. So it's really, it's essentially, you're just delaying your gratification until 2026. Yep. And we don't know what
he'll be back on the field.
Yeah. So. And we can't decide. He looked good in the very limited action. He didn't look like he had lost a step, which it's a wild thing to say, knowing what you and I know about ACL injuries and recovery and doing all, like, he wouldn't have lost a step. But for it to happen again, let me ask you this. Do you think that he's going to lose a level of explosion?
Yeah. That's funny that you asked me that, because Dustin actually DM'd me last night and I got back to him this morning about it. But like, he was regarding another Texas running back, CJ Baxter, who played on the same team with Jadon Blue and Jonathan Brooks. Mm-hmm. And I think he ended up, Dustin told me it was like ACL and LCL, but he was asking me if he would lose any explosiveness or like the power and speed that you expect out of that running back. And I said to him, no. Like, there is some slight concern, right? Because we saw a couple times with J.K. Dobbins and Javonte Williams where it's like, it just doesn't seem like they're the same running back. Right. Let me just say that with Javonte Williams and J.K. Dobbins, if I'm remembering correctly from both, they had much more severe injuries that weren't just the ACL. Cool. They had the meniscal injury involved. They had, potentially PCL, LCL, MCL being involved. And like, once you incorporate that multifactorial injury, you're just making it that much harder on yourself. Like the meniscus is honestly one of the most underrated like things that holds athletes back from being able to make timelines back. ACL is very straightforward. An ACL injury is very straightforward as far as that reconstruction and getting back on the field within a certain timeline. And the fact is, Jonathan Brooks had only torn his ACL. I mean, look at Adrian Peterson. Would you say that he lost his explosiveness that MVP season after he tore his ACL?
No. And that's the crazy part is I asked that a little bit tongue in cheek, but also I wanted to, I feel like I'm more the voice of the people when asking something like that, because maybe people don't have that. Maybe people don't have the expertise, like the background to know, like, hey, well, he's not going to lose anything, or like what this means moving forward. Because there's certain guys who move a little bit different, or it just doesn't. When you see a Javonte Williams, it makes you forget about Adrian Peterson.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. The bad news sticks out, right?
Right.
You think of all the bad things that happened. I mean, Deonta Foreman and Cam Akers dealing with their Achilles injuries, and we don't have anybody. Like, I feel like at least with ACL, we do have somebody who we can stand on, like Adrian Peterson. Of course, Adrian Peterson was a much different college prospect than what Jonathan Brooks was. Sure. But at the same time, we need somebody to be that champion that is like showing us the path that it could happen. And we didn't find that with that specific injury with Achilles, but we've seen it with the ACL injury. It happens a lot more commonly than what people give it credit for. And I guess maybe people do give it that amount of credit because it's always talked about all the time, but it's a lot more straightforward. And I hate to say it that way, but it does happen a lot. And it's like the defeat that these athletes have after that injury happens, like it sucks because, who was it? The Juju Watkins, the USC star, who went down with ACL injury. She was just visibly upset on the floor screaming because she knew at that point it was just like, this is going to take me back in my future WNBA career. Or if you look at Jonathan Brooks injuring his ACL 2 times, it's like, again, I have to go through this whole thing 9 months over again of rehab. And that's where like I have the empathy with those athletes, and I want to see them succeed. And that's why it's like, for me, Adrian Peterson is one of my favorite athletes, even though he was a Viking, because this guy was a freaking Iron Man of being able to make something of himself and being a Hall of Famer.
Yeah. No, I love that point. I haven't given enough thought about Jonathan Brooks. I had kind of written him off because I'm a big Chuba Hubbard guy, but also I did like Jonathan Brooks coming out of Texas, and him getting back onto the field. I think there's going to be a role for him to function in that offense. It's an ascending offense. You might just be adding in a bona fide, reliable NFL. They could be the southeastern version of the Detroit Lions. If they land them another.
Don't let MD listen to this, because he messages me all the time saying, he's like, do you feel like this was the path that the Lions took to get where they're at now? And that's about the Panthers. And I'm like, man, you're asking me, like, right now it's like year one with Dave Canales. And it's like, I see it, but we'll see if it gets there. He's so hard of a stand for those Panthers, and I love it.
I mean, if I'm being honest, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of like the trajectory currently in my mind as I have it for the Carolina Panthers. I mean, I think, we'll close it out, but I think we've seen enough with Bryce Young in the back half of that year to know, back half of last year, to know that they've got something. They just need to continue to build around him, because you can build with him. And now they're, I loved what they did in the draft. And I really think that they're going to take another step forward offensively. I think on one of the FF Dynasty shows I said that I think the Panthers are going to be one of the better offenses in the NFL this year. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. I was really excited about Bryce at the end of the season there, especially that week 18 with like his 5 touchdowns. And just, it's like, okay, yeah, we feel much better about going into next season with Bryce.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we get out of here, Ben, tell everybody where they can find you. I think I hit it in the front, but you need to tell us on the way out.
Yeah, so you can find me on X at Dynasty Big Mac FF. And then we're the Dynasty Gambit as well on X. You can find us on TikTok. You can find us on YouTube. We're actually on the FSAN Grindhouse channel. So all of our content will be streaming through there with some other great shows. And then if you want to hit up the free Discord, just literally DM me. I can get you a link, get you access. And you're in there, Chev. We got all the other guys in there, a lot of ball knowers talking about a lot of great things, whether it's trade advice, whether it's, where do you see this player going in the future and projection like that, right? Like these are all the things that we love talking about. And I would love to get everybody connected as much as I can.
Absolutely. That's the beautiful thing about that Discord, and just kind of the community that you built and allowed me to be a part of, is it's just all people trying to get better and being passionate and talking about the game. So that's a lot of fun for me. You know me, I'm your favorite podcaster's favorite podcaster. I am Chev Doer Sanders, aka Chev90 on the Twitter X machine. Find all my work in the link tree, the Quantum of Chevis. Until next time, there's ball watchers and there's ball knowers. Assign yourselves accordingly. Have a good night, everybody.